Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Today we're learning the Torah portion of Noach. And I see you opened up straight to the Ark. The Torah portion of Noach. We learned in Hayom Yom today that the Jew has to live with the times. What does that mean, to live with the times? It means that he has to find purpose, direction, guidance, and answers to today's challenges in the weekly Torah portion. Remember, the Torah portion is not just a random book recommended reading like some sort of a glorified book club. The Torah portion of the week is God's message to humanity today. So every parsha has 7 aliyahs, every week has 7 days. Every day of the week, you got to read the portion of that week and find strength and guidance and purpose from it. Today's Tuesday of the portion of Noach, which means that today we have to find the direction in life from the portion of Noach in general, and specifically from the third portion of the week. So let's take a quick look at what's going on in this week's Torah portion and how we can draw strength from it. Okay, so today's portion, the third aliyah of today, you'll find it on page 47. We talk about the actual waters of the flood, of Noah's flood, that cover the face of the earth. Let's go to bottom page 47. The flood was upon the earth for 40 full days until the night of 28th Kislev. The waters increased and lifted the ark, and it rose above the ground. 49. After the rain ceased, the waters miraculously surged on their own, and thus increased greatly over the earth. The ark drifted on the surface of the earth, 11 on the surface of the water. 11 cubits of its height, remaining submerged under the surface of the water. The waters surged exceedingly high over the earth, and all the high mountains under the whole sky were covered. The mountains were covered, and the waters surged 15 cubits above the Ararat mountains, the highest of them in the region. Now, Ararat mountain is still there today. It's a mountain on the border of Turkey and Iran. And what's interesting is that the waters were 15 cubits above the highest mountain, the mountain of Ararat. Now, since the ark was submerged 11 cubits under the water, obviously, that meant that it was 4 cubits above the top of the mountain, right? So you get in the math over here a little bit when you're realizing, what it took for the ark to settle. It took a year for the ark to settle. All flesh that moved upon the earth perished, including the birds, the livestock, the beasts, and every crawling creature that swarmed the earth, as well as humanity. Of every being that was on the dry land, every being that breathed the breath of life died. The fish, however, remained alive. The fish got a pass. They survived as one. God obliterated every being that had been on the face of the earth, from human to livestock, reptiles, and the birds of the heavens. They were obliterated from the earth. Only Noah and those who were with him in the ark survived and were greatly pained by their isolation. However, one descendant of the giants, Shamchazai and Azael, named Og. This giant Og survived the floodwaters. Here he established the race of superior natural giants and became known as Rephaim and settled in Bashan. Bashan is Golan Heights area. Moses battled these guys. Moses battled the supernatural giants of Og, Melech HaBashan. This guy Og lived in the days of Noach, and he was still alive. Moses was the one that killed him. Moses lived, about 17 generations after Noach. Because 10 generations after Noach came Abraham, then Isaac and Jacob, then Levi, Kahas, Amram, Moshe. 17 generations after Noach comes Moses, and Moses is the one that kills this giant Og that survived the ark. How did he survive the flood? He held on to the ark, which is kind of surprising because the flood waters were actually boiling hot. So how he survived, I don't know. But he was some sort of a supernatural being anyways, which is referenced at the end of Parshas Bereshis. Just very interesting, just a quick note over here to understand what's going on. At the very end of the portion of Bereshis, it mentions that the angels kind of like fell. They fell down. They were called the Nephilim, the fallen angels. Did you notice that in the portion? End of Bereshis, end of Genesis? Mm-hmm. There were these fallen angels that married the sons of women. It was kind of an interesting situation. But just in brief, what happened was that these fallen angels, they married women, human women, and the children that they had were these supernatural giants. Interestingly, I saw a commentary once that said that the reason why women are witches much more than men are. How do you say a male witch? Like, we don't even know how to say a male witch. There's probably a word for it, maybe a warlock, maybe. But whoever heard of a warlock, unless you read Harry Potter? Female witches are, witches are female, typically, right? Because the reason is, Corey says the warlock. The reason is because the secrets of witchcraft, black magic, were given to women by their fallen angel husbands. So this is like the origin of that idea. And they were passed on mother to daughter as some sort of a protection code to protect them from being taken advantage of by men. Just interesting, whatever. Anyway, so that's who this guy Og was, just as a side note. The waters surged over the earth for an additional 150 days after the rainfall stopped and did not subside throughout this entire period, from the 28th of Kislev until 29th of Iyar, which is basically Hanukkah time until like Shavuos. Hanukkah, which is December time, until Shavuos, which is next May. That's how long the waters surged over the earth. Now, let's go just a little further. God remembered Noach and all the beasts and livestock who were with him in the ark. God caused the spirit of consolation and rest to apply to what was happening on the earth, and the waters began to subside. When it stopped raining on the 28th of Kislev, it rained for 40 actual days, right? But the waters didn't subside for a whole year. Most of the well springs of the abyss were sealed, but some of them were left open to serve as hot springs. And the hot springs we have told today, like in Tiberias, different places in the world, there's still open hot springs from those days of Noah. In contrast, all the floodgates of heaven were sealed, thus the rain from the heavens were held back. So there were rains from above and there were rains from below, is what I'm trying to show you. At the end of the 150 days, on 28th of Kislev, beginning on the 1st of Sivan, the water slowly but steadily receded from the earth, and the waters diminished. The water level dropped 1/4 of a cubit per day. You could do the math here, quarter cubit per day. So that after 16 days, it would have gone down 4 cubits, right? Remember we said before that the ark was submerged 11 cubits under the water, right? And the water was 15 cubits above the highest mountain, Ararat. That would mean after 16 days of receding a quarter cubit a day, it would have gone down 4 cubits to rest on Mount Ararat. After 16 days, that is on the 7th day of the month of Sivan, which was the 7th month, counting from when the rain stopped falling, in Kislev the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Since the water reached a height of 15 cubits above the mountaintop, and the bottom of the ark was submerged 11 cubits below the water level only had to drop 4 cubits, 16 days, to allow the ark to rest on the mountain. Okay. The waters continued to diminish at this rate for another 44 days until the first day of Menachem Av, the 10th month, counting from when the rain began falling in Mar Cheshvan. In the course of these 44 days, the water level dropped an additional 11 cubits. Thus, in the 10th month, on the first of the month, the height of the water had receded a total of 15 cubits, and the highest mountain peaks became visible. This is when the top of the mountains became visible. You know, the ark had already settled on the top of the mountain, but the mountain tops became visible on the first of Av, and it took a while. Once the ark settled firmly in the mountaintop, the water began to recede much faster. 40 days after the highest mountaintops became visible, on the 10th of Elul, which is almost 1 year since the rain began, Noah opened the window he made to the ark. Okay, now it's a whole beautiful story. Not such a beautiful story, actually. It's quite sad. So the question is, what on earth has this story got to do with us? Okay, so there's a flood that happened. We're 131 generations from Adam. This happened 121 generations ago. That's significant timing. 121 generations ago, it happened approximately 1,000 years after the creation of the world. No, 1,500 years after the creation of the world. You're talking about 4,500 years ago. 4,250 years ago. That's a long time ago. Like, what? Why do we need to know the story? What relevance does this story have to us? So here's how Chassidus explains it. Here's how the Rebbe explains this beautiful idea. Bring it into sharp focus into our personal lives. The Rebbe explains that the waters of the flood represent the overwhelming distractions of life that prevent you from living your life the way you would want to live your life. When there's a flood, it's just total chaos. You're just overwhelmed. Like the water, which overwhelms you. You're just overwhelmed. And now, these waters, they didn't allow them to live as they would have wanted to. They divided into 2 directions. There's the waters that come from the great deep, and the waters that come from the windows of the sky. This is the quote from the verse. Some come from the great deep, and some of the waters come from the windows of the sky. What do they represent? The waters that come from the great deep are the distractions that are materialistic in origin. And the waters that come from above are the distractions that are spiritual in origin. What's the difference? What's a material distraction? For example, if you're trying to make a living, you're trying to pay your bills, right? And you can't keep it together. You can't catch up. You're like the rat and the hamster on the wheel. And you're just trying to keep up with the bills. So you don't have time to live as a Jew. Think about that for a moment. Have you ever experienced such a thing? You just don't have time. Like, Rabbi, I want to late to fill in. I want to go to shul, but I have to be at my desk at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got to work until 7 p.m. at night. I don't have time. I'm overwhelmed with maintenance of the house and cutting the lawn, keeping up with the Joneses and everything else. It's just overwhelming. The distraction that is materialistic in nature is too much for me to process. Can't handle it. So I don't have time to live the way I want. And I find as Rabbi of Palm Beach Gardens that many Jews in this area are in the golden years of their life, many of them. And what happens is that they've worked really, really hard many years of their lives. And now, when they're retired, now they're like looking for something to do. And for many Americans, it's like, okay, so when you retire, you just chase a golf ball all day long on a golf course, right? And I tell them, listen, your whole life you worked so hard, but now it's time for you to really live. Then you made a living, but now it's time for you to actually live. Don't allow your struggle to make a living cause you to forget that you actually need to live. So what happens is that when I talk to people, I say, listen, who are you really? What's your core? What's your essence? What's your real purpose on this earth? And think about it, there might be more to life than golf. And that's when we learn Torah and we discover spirituality and we explore a higher purpose and a higher appreciation of the purpose of life. And it's beautiful. So I find that there's a tremendous advantage to the retirement years of your life, because you're able to be financially secure, but together with that, being able to focus on the finer and more important parts of life. So let's divide it into urgent and important, right? When you're working, that's urgent, but it's less important, but it's urgent because you got to pay your bills. You got to pay school tuition, put the kids through Jewish day school. You got to, pay the mortgage, put food on the table, yada, 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 right? So that's urgent. It's not important, but it's urgent. Sometimes we're so busy with the urgent for so many years, we forget what's important. Then comes the second kind of distraction. What's that? That's the windows of the sky. The waters that comes gushing out of the windows of the sky. This is the spiritual distractions. What's that, for example? What is a spiritual distraction? That would be, for example, when you're engaged in community outreach. When you engage, you're so busy with managing, with helping other people in the community, you don't have time for your own spirituality. For example, let's say you're the head of the federation. So now you're so busy, raising money for Israel, helping Jews come out of Russia. You're so busy. It's not admittedly materialistic pursuits. It's much more spiritual pursuits. But still, you're having the overwhelming duty and responsibility that's not allowing you to manifest your own spirituality. And these are the waters of Noach. These are the waters of the flood. And now we're start with this context. The Rebbe is introducing us to the stage of this week's Parsha. And it becomes very poignant and personal when you realize, okay, so I'm that guy. I'm the guy that's flailing in the waters. I'm trying to keep it together, but I'm just trying to keep my head above water, and I'm barely managing. So how do you manage? What are you supposed to do? Comes the Torah portion and says this. There will be all sorts of distractions to pull you away from your most important purpose upon this earth. What is that? Torah and mitzvahs. You were placed upon this earth to learn Torah and to fulfill mitzvahs. Now, we don't study Torah. Let's be straight. We don't study Torah because you need to one day use it in some sort of academic platform, because you need the wisdom to be able to become a rabbi or give a good sermon. No, we learn Torah for in and of itself, because we've learned this in Tanya, that God and his wisdom are one and the same. So every moment that you're studying Torah, like this very moment that you're studying Torah with me right now, what you're doing is that you're becoming one with God Almighty, whether or not you're ever going to repeat this wisdom again. Makes no difference. The act of studying Torah right here, right now, is in and of itself an infinite experience. It's an encounter with infinity, which is far more infinite than any other experience that you could possibly have in this physical world. And mitzvahs, of course. Mitzvahs is God's mitzvahs, right? The commandments that God asks you to do. 613 of them, of which we learned that only 271 are actually able to be fulfilled in this time of exile. The overwhelming majority of whom are passive commandments, like not to murder and not to kidnap and not to speak slander. There's a lot of things that are just passive, but the actual active commandments, like tefillin, Shabbos candles, kiddush, the Jewish holidays, tzitzis, those kind of mitzvahs, there's not that many of them to actually fulfill. This is the purpose of life. So you get distracted from materialistic distractions and from spiritual distractions. What's the purpose? The purpose of Torah mitzvahs. What is the advice? How am I supposed to handle it? What lesson can I learn from this week's Torah portion? I think we can strongly identify with the problem, right? The problem makes a lot of sense to us. Okay, got it, Rabbi. Makes sense. I feel like Noah flailing in the waters, but what am I supposed to do about this right now? First of all, God validates your concerns. The moment you open Parshas Noach, you realize that it's raining not only from above, it's raining from below as well. Ooh, okay, I can identify. So God is validating your struggle. If you're feeling overwhelmed, good. That's normal. It's supposed to be distracting. Life wasn't supposed to be a bed of roses. People say to me, Rabbi, if I was supposed to walk to shul, then God would have given me wings. God would have, found me a house that's closer. And I say to them, you weren't put into this world in order to have it easy. In fact, you were placed here in order to overcome struggles, right? Your struggle is what's going to bring out the best in you. Now, I'm going to say something a little controversial right now. I hope you don't mind me saying this. But Chassidus teaches us that the reason why God gives us problems is in order to force us to discover deeper basements in our own souls that we never knew existed. And this is true of the biggest problem our people have ever encountered, anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism. I mean, think about it. The United Nations. You can't even make this stuff up. You can't even make it up. Today, there's a headline coming out this morning that the United Nations is pondering that evacuating civilians from Gaza is a crime against humanity. This is what the great minds of the United Nations are proposing, right? Now, the fact that rockets have come out of Gaza in a nonstop barrage since the day that we evacuated in 2005, that it came out of a civilian population into a civilian population, we've never heard a single condemnation. Not a single condemnation. This is not a crime against humanity. But the moment that the Jews rise up to defend themselves, crime against humanity. It's almost like you can't make this stuff up. You think of yourself like, you actually start to doubt your own sanity because you say, there's got to be something wrong. It can't be that the whole world is wrong and only we are right, right? And the answer is wrong. We are right and they are wrong. God created anti-Semites, and I'm sorry, this is very, very controversial what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. God created anti-Semites in order to bring out the best in us. In other words, God is also still in control. He knows what he's doing. The moment that we learned our lesson in Jewish history, the moment the Jews learned our lesson, and I'm referring specifically to the Hanukkah story, the moment that we figured out what we needed to do spiritually. Remember, the overwhelming majority of Jews in the Hanukkah story were assimilated. Sounds familiar, right? The overwhelming majority of the Jews in the Hanukkah story were assimilated, and only a small band of Jews remained loyal to God, the Maccabees. And only when they did what they needed to do, they went out with serious nefesh, with self-sacrifice, to give up their lives for their faith, what they believed in. That's when they won the war. The war was won. The anti-Semites dissipated once the Jew did his internal work. And I'm saying, yes, of course, you got to do your political and your military endeavors right now, but it's our spiritual work which is most critically important right now. That God gives us problems in order to bring out the best in us. So don't scream at the television exclusively. Remember that God is trying to give you a message. And maybe he's trying to wake you up, wake us up as Jews, as mankind, to a higher awareness, a higher relationship with God, because apparently it's not working any other way. So he might need to resort to the big guns in order to force us to discover our own spirituality and our own need for a relationship with God. Okay, anyways, I digressed a little bit over there. I'm sorry that I went off into the anti-Semitism rabbit hole. Forgive me. But back to Noah. So how are you supposed to handle the distractions of life that apparently are all around us? The answer is, says the Rebbe, that the Torah tells us straight up. What does God tell Noah? Go into the ark. Go into the ark. What's the ark? The ark in Hebrew is Teva, T-E-V-A, T-E-I-V-A. Not Teva, which is nature and drowning. That's a different word. It's spelled with a tes. Teva is spelled with a taf, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Taf, vez, hey. It's a different spelling to Teva, nature. And Teva means a box or an ark. It also means a word, W-O-R-D. And the meaning of that is that you're supposed to step into the ark. You're supposed to step into the word. Which word? The words of Torah and the words of prayer. A Jew is commanded that when you feel overwhelmed, force yourself into the ark of Torah and prayer. Force yourself into the words of Torah and mitzvahs, because only when Torah and prayer surround the Jew is he able to be assured that he won't be hurt. Noah and his children and his wife were protected after the flood because the entire time they were sheltering within the ark. And that's what the Jews' day is supposed to look like. Instead of saying, I don't have time to pray, say, I don't have time not to pray. Instead of saying, I don't have time to learn Torah, say, I don't have time not to learn Torah, because only through learning Torah and making sure, it doesn't have to be the whole day. It could be 30 minutes in the morning here with the rabbi. It could be maybe you don't have time here with the rabbi. You could do it in between customers today. Or you could do it later on when you're on the road and doing calls, right? When you make sure to prioritize your day proactively with Torah and with tefillah, prayer, the word, that's when you are protected with the immunity, with the iron dome that's going to protect you from drowning in the waters that threaten to crush you. How do we start our day with words? The moment we wake up, we put our hands together, we say, Modeh ani lefanecha. Melech chai v'kayam shechazarta b'nishmati v'chemla. Rabbi monasecha, I thank you, O living and eternal King, that you have restored my soul within me with compassion. Great is your trust in me. These are the words that we open our day with. You open your words with the teva, with the word, right? Then we go straight into the morning blessings. Don't tell me you don't have time to say Modeh ani for 12 seconds in the morning. Don't tell me you don't have time when you wake up in the morning to say the morning blessings. You open up a prayer book. It's very simple. You take a prayer book, you buy one of these, you should own it. And then you start the day. It's on page 5 in the prayer book from Modeh ani. You go all the way until page 9 or 10. No, from page 5 until 12. I'm sorry. Until the end of Adon Olam, you could just start your day with words of Torah. You say all the various blessings of the morning, the blessings of Torah. You say commitment for loving your fellow Jew, Adon Olam. You say these words, then you are automatically ensuring, no matter what happens the rest of this day, that this day has started with a teva. I'm in the ark. I'm in the word. Because only after a Jew has begun his day in such a way that he is established firmly, that his core, his essence, his truth is Torah and mitzvahs, and everything else that he does in the day is merely a means to the ends of Torah and mitzvahs, only then is he ensured that he's going to be protected. Now, very important disclaimer, this does not mean that you should lock yourself up in the ark like Noah and not worry about everybody else. Noah ensured and was given the instruction to bring within him to the ark all of his family. He was also instructed to bring everybody else into the ark. He just failed to influence them. He wasn't able to influence them, so such was their depravity and their self-absorbedness.
Did he actually try?
Well, the Torah says that it took 120 years to build the ark. I mean, people lived longer then, okay? It sounds like a Florida contract that took him 120 years. I'm working on it. So 120 years to build the ark. Rashi asks, well, why does it have to take 120 years? Because God wanted that people should see him building an ark in the middle of dry land and say, what are you doing? So that he could influence them. But apparently, after 120 years, I say, Noach was like the world's worst Chabad rabbi. He had 120 years and he didn't make a minyan.
But he wasn't a Jew.
Yeah.
He
wasn't a Jew.
This was all an example of what the Rebbe's saying. It's an example for how people should live, really, regardless whether you're a Jew or not a Jew.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Noach was not Jewish.
Just don't shut your mind and your heart to the world.
Yes, exactly. You've got to try to save them too.
Right.
You've got to reach out and give them shelter as well.
Well, I guess for Jews, it's to be an example.
Yeah.
For the rest of the world.
Or Lagonim, we read about it in the Haftarah. Well, was Haftarah for the portion of Bereshis last Shabbos, where a light unto the nations. Absolutely, it's always supposed to be. Right. You weren't supposed to be stuck in an ivory tower. You are supposed to go out and influence everybody else to make sure that they too enter into their ark of Torah and prayer. That the other Jew should also know that his truth is Torah and mitzvahs, and don't define yourself by your problems. Our problems don't define us. Our problems prepare us. How often does that happen that people define themselves by their problems? And when you realize that the role of the problems is to not define you, but prepare you, now you set sail on the waters. When you're in the ark, now you're cruising over the waters instead of drowning in them. And that, my friends, is the message for today. Awesome. Chazak v'matz, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me here today. Have a great day. Let's win this war. Torah, tefillah, Torah and mitzvahs. We've got to add in Torah and mitzvahs in order to send spiritual support to our brothers and sisters in the promised land, in the Holy Land, in the line of danger, in the line of fire, God forbid. All Jews are in need of help today. And when you lay tefillin today, folks, I cannot urge you enough how important it is for you to lay tefillin today. You to lay tefillin today. For you to light Shabbos candles, for you to say a prayer. Go to jewishgardens.com/pray. That's jewishgardens.com/pray. I'll put it in the notes over here where you can print out a printable prayer book. It's a short prayer book with various psalms that you can recite in Hebrew and English. Say them over and over and over. Send spiritual powers to our brothers and sisters in Israel. They need every bit of help that we can get. Learn Torah more than you're comfortable with. Do more mitzvahs than you're able to than you normally do. Lay tefillin, specifically the mitzvah of tefillin. The nations of the land will see the name of God upon you, tefillin, and they will fear you. Be kinder to a fellow Jew that you would normally not have been kind to. Go crazy good to counter the crazy bad. Don't get stressed out. Don't watch the news. Don't get stressed out by the media. Don't watch social media. Just connect. Social media is some sort of another tsunami that is attacking us. There are more anti-Semites out there than you could possibly imagine on social media. They are the vocal minority, I'm going to call them, right? The loud minority as opposed to most of mankind, which is the silent majority that are actually supporting the Jews. But don't go to social media. It's going to stress the daylights out of you. Go into the ark, learn Torah, do mitzvahs, say a prayer, keep on praying. Next time you're going to turn on the television or check incessantly to see if there's any good news, don't wait for good news. Make the good news. How do you make the good news? Through Torah and through mitzvahs and through prayer. All right? Let's win this war. God bless you.